What's good, tinfoilers? We've reached the finale of Season 2, and this one is called Into the Fire. This is a very fitting title because with all of the chaos brewing in Silo 18, you could say we jumped out of the frying pan a long time ago. Now, we will get a lot of questions answered in this episode, but some new and deeply disturbing questions will crop up by the end, that's for sure. Before we begin, a quick shout out to the channel patrons over here, and of course a warm welcome to the newest members, Tony NZ, Alfred Correa, Ford Pinto, and Liv. I just want to say thanks for choosing to support the channel this way, and look forward to seeing your name in the producer credits at the end of each video. Thanks again. We've got a lot to discuss, fam, so what do you say we get started? It's time to dive. Now, Into the Fire opens with a tight shot of the face of a ticking wristwatch, foretelling that timing is going to be everything in this episode, but also that this watch is going to play an important role in the story. Now, Dr. Nichols has been aiding the rebels in Mechanical's war with Bernard. So in this scene, he's talking to Shirley and Knox about the credible rumor that Juliet is still alive out there, something he refused to believe until now. But then Knox tells the doctor that he's going to be needed. They want his help because they're about to make a very important move against Bernard. Okay, so moving back over to Silo 17. Juliet, Eder, and Solo, or Jimmy, are in Jimmy's childhood home, the home of the head of IT, Russell Conroy. Juliet needs that suit she spotted in the last episode because it's probably better than the fire suit that she modified, but also because Eder wants to leave the silo too. During this conversation, we learn that Eder's real name is Hope, so we're going to call her that from now on. Thank God. Now, while they're here, Jimmy has a chance to reminisce for a bit, and we get a peek into one of his fondest childhood memories. The time is ticking. Juliet's got to get back to the silo pronto. It's a good thing Jimmy kept looking around because he picks up a torn piece of paper and it suddenly triggers a memory. Now, we heard Legacy use this term in episode 9 when Lucas bumped into that door at the bottom of the silo, and by the sound of it, we might assume this is a kill switch meant to wipe the entire silo if necessary. This causes Jimmy to race to catch up with Juliet to warn her she needs to deal with the safeguard issue or her people may be wiped out by it. Okay, so back over to Silo 18, this is a very important scene. We're at Walker's workshop with the rebel leaders from Mechanical, along with Sheriff Billings and Deputy Hank, and they're about to discuss the plans that will have massive implications for the silo. Now remember, Bernard is watching the entire thing, waiting for them to show their hand. Now, as the scene plays out, the rebels give a detailed description of how they intend to rig the generator to blow as a way of forcing Bernard to give them the truth. Now, we might be wondering if Knox and Shirley are playing the camera here, but we do get confirmation in a few shots that show that they know the walls have ears, and they must be setting up a trap for Bernard, but we don't know how it works yet. The real question here is, does Walker know that they know? Is she in on it? After watching this, Bernie is feeling pretty good about himself. He's confident that he can nip this thing in the bud by crashing the barricade and taking the generator by force. So he sends the entire Raider army down there to do so. That was your first mistake. This presents a problem for Mechanical, who have to hold them off long enough for their plan to play out, so it becomes necessary to make use of those weapons they made just for the occasion. Also note that Lucas keeps getting caught up in all the action while trying to slip past the goons to reach Bernard. Alright, so now back over to Silo 17 once again. Juliet and Jimmy are looking for any clues they can find on how to stop the safeguard, but it's not looking good. Jimmy's gonna have to remember something useful if they're gonna get anywhere with this, and fortunately for them, he does. Jimmy explains that the safeguard is in fact meant to end the silo, and it's done via poison coming from pipes hidden somewhere in each silo. But this is nothing new. Jimmy once mentioned that the original group that exited the silo didn't die right away. They were fine for a time before they started dying, and he brings this up again here. This implies that the outside atmosphere might be okay, and the danger is coming from somewhere else. Jimmy says that his parents were able to save the people by stopping the gas that is delivered through the pipe on level 14. And this also happens to be where his mother worked, because she was in judicial. Now, if Russell and his wife, Gwen, had figured out how to stop the poison, then he was being honest when he told them it was safe to go outside, if that's what was poisoning them out there. But it sounds like Russell told the sheriff more than that. He also told him the truth about the silo, and that might be why things went off the rails. What if this doesn't work the way we thought it did? What if it works in reverse? What if it's the silo itself that's the real threat here, not necessarily the atmosphere outside? Or maybe both things are true. Something to consider. So far, it's looking like a W for Bernard back in Silo 17. He's got all of the main offenders accounted for, and that key fob isn't blowing up, as it seems to do whenever it needs him to take drastic action against a perceived threat to the silo. Now, Robert and Camille are watching all of this play out, and they're feeling a little bit nervous. Camille did pass Billings' message on to the would-be supporters within the ranks. The hope is that they'll help turn the tide against Bernard when the time is right, but they don't really know if this is going to work out yet. Their next move, Robert needs to find a way to get into that vault and get access to Legacy. The Judicial has rebels locked up with Carla, and we get this scene where Walker is outed as the rat who sang to Bernard about their plans, and as a result, she's rejected by Carla for being a traitor. Now there's a scene where Dr. Nichols is urgently trying to move an injured person on a gurney up the staircase. The judicial goon he's dealing with here is giving him a problem. He's making life difficult, but he's distracted by a radio call about some gunpowder that was discovered, and the doctor keeps it pushing. But he drops this device on the ground on his way, and it's ticking. Dr. Nichols, what are you really up to here? It appears that this is what Mechanical needed him for. That man is not injured. This is part of Mechanical's plot to smuggle the real bomb further up the silo. The game is afoot. So when Judicial sends in their bomb expert to check out the generator, they notice that it hasn't been fully set up. The goal was to distract and get as many of them down here for the real fireworks show that is about to happen. Walker requests to see Bernard, and he thinks this is an opportunity for him to rub it in her face because he believes he's in the clear. But Walk is here to have a little fun of her own. She and the rest of Mechanical just finessed him. Turns out she used a special sign language developed by Mechanical to communicate with each other when it's too noisy to hear. She did tell Knox about the secret deal that she made with Bernard and that they worked together to play Bernard. Walker admits that she got herself into this bind because she put her needs ahead of the group, but now she's here to fix that with a parting gift. And that gift should arrive any moment now. While this is happening, Dr. Nichols has made the decision to manually trigger the bomb himself because they lost a timer on the way there. Before doing so, he gives Hank the watch that Jules gave him before she left with a message. He wants her to know that he loves her and that she was always fine. It's the world that wasn't. And Dr. Nichols makes the ultimate sacrifice for the cause here. When the bomb goes off, it's loud enough that even the folks over at Silo 17 hear and feel the effects. Mechanical has blown up the staircase, leaving Judicial trapped in the lowers. Bernard is now isolated from Judicial. And it's because the rebels have so many allies spread throughout the silo, waiting to make a move, that they're able to take control of things the minute the bomb goes off. Now, Bernard is in full panic mode at this point. He's completely lost control of the silo, and it looks like he's out of options. But take note of the fact, Legacy hasn't contacted him at this crucial moment. Juliet had better get back to this silo before it's too late. Lucas finally catches up to Bernard and demands that he listen to what he has to tell him. Now, we don't get the particulars, but we can guess that he's learning that the safeguard exists and will be used to wipe out the entire silo, should the Legacy see fit. It had to be something like that, because it would explain Meadows' behavior, as well as the reason the message had to be encoded in a manner that Legacy itself would have a hard time understanding. The big takeaway here is that the founders left their fate in the hands of a computer that could destroy them on a whim. Safety wasn't their primary concern here. That we can say for sure. Both Amundsen and Sims are watching this conversation from a distance, and it's gotta be killing them to know what's being said. Needless to say, Mr. Holland is gutted by the news. He just realized he wasn't in on the joke. He's been defending a system that's been exploiting him, and that's gotta sting. When Robert asks Bernard about the conversation with Lucas, Bernard doesn't tell him, but he hands him the keys to the vault and access to the Legacy, because in his mind, none of it matters anymore. Now, over in 17, Audrey still holds a grudge against Hope. Words really aren't necessary here, but there is some hope that she might change. Now, Juliet returns to that vault with Russell Conroy's suit, but she's in for a surprise because the suit is full of holes. It looks moth-eaten, rendering it useless. Our only hope now is to roll the dice on the fire suit and hope she can make it back. Hope tries to be optimistic about things, living up to her name already, but Audrey chooses this moment to attack her as if any of this was her fault. Juliet straightens things out, delivering one of the most important lines of the episode. Be angry at the MFers who built this place and put us in it. Couldn't have said it better myself. Audrey needs to reassess where she places the blame for her situation and recognize who and what the real problem is. The founders created this hell, and these people are just doing their best to survive in it. They need each other. And it's about this time that Juliet notices that Jimmy is missing, and there's a moment where it looks like Jimmy took off with the suit, but we soon find out that he's just testing the suit to make sure it's airtight and can withstand the atmosphere on the surface. Jimmy was just looking out for her. We should have never doubted him. Now, over in Silo 18, the rebels are relieved to be free, but they don't have a lot of time to celebrate because things are really starting to pop off. The people are streaming up the silo stairs in droves, and many with the intention of leaving the silo, and others want revenge for being lied to. But all of them are completely unaware of the danger in the safeguard protocol. Bernard, however, is aware of this, so he clears out some space and locks himself away from the chaos. Meanwhile, Sims interrupts a conversation between Lucas and his mom, demanding to know what Lucas told Bernard. These kind of threats no longer work on Lucas because he knows that it's over unless a miracle happens, and this makes Robert even more uneasy about the situation, so he goes off to the vault to find out for himself. Now, it's finally time for Juliet to say goodbye to her new friends at Silo 17. She reminds them that everything is uncertain at this point, so this may be the last time that they see each other, but she wishes them well. Before leaving, she reassures them that they will be okay, and Hope gets her own well-deserved pep talk. But Juliet's last moments in 17 are with Jimmy, and he really wants her to promise that she'll be back, and he even goes so far as to give her a hug, something he's not used to. Everyone in 17 is going to miss her, and it's interesting when you look at how different Silo 17 is now compared to what it was when she first arrived. She's transformed the lives of everyone involved. Now, back in Silo 18, things are just about to boil over. Billings finds Bernard and tries to convince him to help calm things down. Patty and his gang want to get their hands on Bernie for other reasons. Right when things are looking their absolute worst, a lone figure donning a fire suit appears on the ridge in the camera feed. Juliet made it back. Right away, she runs down to the camera and begins cleaning it. And this goes over well with the audience because their greatest hope is confirmed to be true. You can leave the vault and survive. But Juliet also came prepared with a message for the people inside. Don't come out. She knows that if they do, it could trigger the insane safeguard. Hopefully, this means disaster averted. Now, Bernard hears the uproar outside and runs to a camera feed to witness Juliet's return, as if his day couldn't get any worse. But she still needs to get into that silo, so she tries prying it open, but no dice. Then all of a sudden, the doors open automatically. Juliet descends the ramp to find Bernard at the bottom of it, and he's dressed up like he's going somewhere. They have a very interesting conversation that we're going to get into in just a moment. Well, let's go back over to Sims. Now, he and the fam are within the vault, and Robert is interacting with the Legacy, seeming to get his account started. He's giving it his credentials as the IT Shadow. But then a strange thing happens. Legacy tells him to step down, and that he and his son should leave, but Camille should stay. Now, this is kind of a big deal. I read this scene as the Legacy, or whatever this thing is, the algorithm, choosing Camille to be the next to take over Bernard's old job. We know that this thing is watching everything, so it knows what she's been up to. At the end of the day, it's probably some kind of calculation made, but it has come to the conclusion that Camille is the best person to help regain control based on her decision-making skills. She's a lot like Meadows when you really think about it. Robert, on the other hand, has a bad reputation, and he's more inclined to respond like Bernard when things get sketchy, making him less suited. Now let's head back over to Juliet and Bernard. In Bernard's mind, this is all her fault. After all, it was her dogged determination that eventually led to Bernard losing control of the silo. But he also recognizes that they're in the same boat. In the end, he was bamboozled too. So he doesn't pull the trigger because she's no longer an enemy. The only thing he wants right now is to know what it feels like to be free from the silo for once in his life. Kind of like someone he used to know. Now, Juliet tells him there might be a way to prevent the safeguard, and he seems legitimately interested in knowing more about it. That's when the doors begin to close and Jules slips in just in time, along with Bernard, who's trying to stop her. With good reason. The room uses fire to roast the crap out of any microbes or chemicals in the area between uses, so it's not a good time to be in here. Bernard appears to be trying to protect Jules here. But you know what? But this is the cliffhanger we needed. We'll have to wait until season 3 to find out what happened. Now, this scene is scripted to give us some mild hints about the background behind Silo, so some of the clues are very subtle. This guy here is a congressman who appears to be meeting with a reporter on what he thought was a date, but we find out that the journalist wanted to get information out of him on something related to a dirty bomb, and it appears it was used in the US in an attack by Iran. And this congressman appears to know something about the silos, which might have been built to withstand those attacks. The big takeaway is that before this guy walks away, he hands her a gift that he picked up on the way to the date, and it's a Pez dispenser. I'm guessing that this is the very same one that George Wilkins had. This could be implying that this woman ended up in a silo at some point, and that she may even be related to George. We can assume that maybe more bombs came, and that the silos were absolutely necessary for survival. So this could explain why the surface is uninhabitable right now. And this closing scene is interesting because we could be looking at one of the founding fathers talking to one of the original Flamekeepers. Wouldn't that be ironic? Anyway, that's it for this one. That's it for the season. I think season 2 was a success. Overall, every episode was somewhere between good and fantastic. Very good finale, just as strong as the opening, I would say. So this is another 5. I'm giving out too many 5s lately. But this one deserves it. What can I say? This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do season 3. Apologies for this video being so late. I had 2 episodes drop on the same day. it was going to be late regardless. Nothing I could do about that. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you already know what to do. Be safe out there, tinfoilers, and until the next time, off you go.